In June 2019, Facebook didn't just announce a product, it announced a vision to change the way money moves around the world. A new digital currency, borderless, instant, and controlled not by governments, but by a social media platform. They called it Libra, and it wasn't some side project buried inside a developer lab. This was front and center, announced by Mark Zuckerberg, backed by a brand new Libra association, and supported by a who's who of corporate giants: Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, Spotify, Uber. The idea? Create a global digital coin that could be sent as easily as a text message, with zero banking fees, accessible to anyone with a smartphone. Facebook said 1.7 billion adults had no access to the formal financial system, but they had access to at least one of Facebook's platforms. With nearly 3 billion users across Facebook, Messenger, WhatsApp, and Instagram, they didn't just want to connect the world socially, they wanted to connect it financially. Libra would be more than a coin. It would be a platform, governed by a nonprofit, not owned by Facebook alone, built on blockchain, backed by reserves, designed for the unbanked, the underbanked, and anyone tired of wire fees and intermediaries. It sounded revolutionary, almost too good to be true, and in the next few months it would become clear just how dangerous that vision looked, especially to governments. Before we go down that road, let's deep dive into the technicalities of Libra's crypto structure. Unlike Bitcoin, whose price is volatile and ledger entirely decentralized, Libra was meant to be a stable coin. That means it wouldn't swing wildly in price. It would be pegged to a basket of global currencies: the US dollar, the euro, the yen, and others, plus a reserve of safe government bonds. This wasn't just a digital asset, it was an attempt to build a global financial backbone. A coin that would hold its value across borders, whether you were in New York or Nairobi. And instead of being mined by anonymous computers like Bitcoin, Libra would be run on a permissioned blockchain, meaning only approved members of the Libra Association could validate transactions. That's where the power was concentrated in a curated group of corporate partners who would govern the system together. And for the average user, it was going to be seamless. Facebook introduced a new digital wallet called Calibra, later renamed Novi, that would let people send Libra just like a message, through Messenger, through WhatsApp, instantly, no fees, no banks. Imagine paying a friend back across the world as easily as you send a selfie. That's what Libra promised. And that promise, that potential to reach billions, is exactly what made governments nervous. Because while Libra looked like a friendly coin, wrapped in user experience and powered by smart contracts, underneath, it was an attempt to build a private monetary system, one that could operate outside the control of central banks. And unlike the previous attempts we have taken a look at on this channel, this attempt was being undertaken by a corporate Goliath, one that is arguably more powerful than almost any government. It wasn't just a product, it was a challenge to the entire global financial order. And for that very reason, regulators and politicians around the world sounded the alarm. In the United States, members of Congress demanded answers. They called emergency hearings. Lawmakers from both parties, yes, both, warned that Facebook was trying to become a shadow bank. Some even demanded the project be immediately halted. Maxine Waters said Libra posed a threat to the global financial system. Senator Sherrod Brown asked, "Do we really want Facebook running its own currency?" And then, even the president got involved. In July 2019, Donald Trump tweeted that Libra would have little standing or dependability, and that if Facebook wanted to become a bank, it would need to seek a banking charter and follow regulations like everyone else. Meanwhile, in Europe, the reaction was just as fierce. France's finance minister vowed to block Libra entirely. Germany's central bank warned that it could destabilize the Eurozone. China accelerated its work on a central bank digital currency, citing Libra as a direct threat. Why such a coordinated panic? Because governments realized something. This wasn't just another crypto startup. This was a private company with billions of users attempting to create a parallel global currency system. A system with no central bank, no national currency, and no borders. To some, it sounded like innovation. To others, it sounded like financial anarchy. Even central banks that were once slow to act on digital currencies suddenly woke up. Libra didn't just shake up tech, it jolted the global financial order. And while Facebook tried to reassure the world, holding press conferences, publishing open letters, pledging transparency, the damage was already done. Libra had crossed a line. It had made the boldest move a tech company could make. It tried to reinvent money, and the system fought back. As soon as the regulatory heat turned up, the cracks started to show. The very partners that gave Libra its credibility began to walk away. It started quietly. PayPal, one of the original backers and a company that once dreamed of creating a digital currency itself, backed out. No press release, just a quiet exit. And then came the avalanche. Visa, MasterCard, Stripe, eBay. One by one, the names that had once legitimized the project began disappearing from the Libra Association's website. They weren't just companies, they were the infrastructure of global payments. Without them, Libra was no longer a future financial ecosystem. It was a Facebook product dressed in non-profit clothes. Behind the scenes, Facebook scrambled. They proposed a scaled-back version of the project. Instead of a global stablecoin backed by a basket of currencies, they offered to issue multiple coins, each tied to a single national currency like the dollar or euro. The goal was to placate regulators. To say, see, we're not trying to replace your currency, just digitize it. But the damage was done. The narrative had shifted. Libra was no longer a brave experiment in financial inclusion. It was a cautionary tale, and Facebook, now under even greater scrutiny for privacy, misinformation, and monopolistic behavior, had become the worst possible messenger for a new kind of money. What had started as a coalition of global innovators was now a dwindling club struggling to stay relevant. The Libra dream wasn't dead yet, but it was on life support. Desperate, and with the original Libra project in free fall, Facebook made one final move to save it. In December 2020, they announced a complete rebrand. Libra would now be known as Diem, Latin for day. A fresh name meant to signal a fresh start. But this wasn't just a cosmetic change. Diem came with a radically scaled-back mission. Gone was the idea of a global basket-backed stablecoin. Gone were the plans to upend the global monetary system. Diem would now launch as a US dollar-backed stablecoin, fully compliant with US regulations. The association was now headquartered in Switzerland, and the focus was on winning over regulators, not disrupting them. They even brought in Stuart Levy, a former US Treasury official, as CEO of the Diem Association, a clear sign they were going straight for legitimacy. Meanwhile, the Calibra wallet had also been renamed, now called Novi. It would be Facebook's official entry point for users. But it was too late. Regulators hadn't forgotten. Trust hadn't recovered. And the world, especially the crypto world, had moved on. DeFi was booming. Central banks were building their own digital currencies. Bitcoin was making new all-time highs. Diem was no longer a bold innovation. It was a relic of a failed push. A project still stuck in regulatory limbo, still facing the shadow of its past. Even with a new name, it couldn't escape the weight of what Libra had tried to be. And in early 2022, it all came to an end. Facebook's global digital currency dream was over. The Diem Association announced that it was selling off its technology to Silvergate Bank, a crypto-focused financial firm based in California. After nearly 3 years of controversy, hearings, rebrands, and walkouts, the project that once promised to reinvent global finance was dead. No coin, no wallet, no launch. Just a long list of white papers, news cycles, and what-ifs. Libra had started as a bold promise, a way to democratize money, bring billions into the financial system, and bypass the inefficiencies of banking. And yet, for all its ambition, it ran into the one thing it couldn't outcode: trust. Governments didn't trust Facebook. Users didn't trust the motives. And regulators, already skeptical of crypto, saw this as a step too far. What Libra revealed is something fundamental about money. It's not just about code. It's not just about tech. Money is about power, about control, and ultimately about who you trust to run it. And no matter how many white papers you publish or wallets you design, You can't reinvent money without confronting the system that already controls it. So what's the legacy of Libra? It didn't launch a coin, but it did launch a global conversation. In the wake of Libra, central banks accelerated their work on CBDCs. Bitcoin gained new credibility as a truly decentralized alternative. Tech giants learned that money can't be moved without permission. Libra failed. But its ripple effects are still being felt, in crypto, in policy, and in the future of digital finance. This was a moment when big tech tried to build money, and the world said no. And next time, we're turning our attention to another corporate crypto ghost, Amazon coins, the digital currency that never left the shopping cart. You've been watching The Crypto Historian, where the past is encrypted and the future is worth mining.